On this edition of Southern Newsweek, the signing of the armistice which ended World War I has been commemorated around the South. And there's a new and exciting feature of the Queenstown skyline, and the only way is down. Kia ora, I'm Melissa Barton. The signing of the Armistice Day in 1918, which ended World War I, was commemorated at Dunedin Cenotaph this week. The service began with a 25-pound gun salute, featuring the reading of the ode, and was an eye-opening experience for a very young audience member.
And in the morning, they were remembered again. The air shook and heaved as a 25-pound gun fired twice at Dunedin's Cenotaph, marking the signing of the armistice in 1918. Dunedin's service was led by Padre Aaron Knotts, with the formal speeches given by retired New Zealand Army Colonel Roger McElwain.
On Armistice Day here in Dunedin in 1918, large crowds gathered and celebrated far into the night. Others did not feel like rejoicing. One woman had been nursing the wounded in France. Her fiancé, her two closest male friends, and her beloved only brother had all been killed.
Otago historian Sean Brosnahan says the Great War ending was celebrated in many places around the world, but not so much by the frontline troops.
But what it signifies is the end of the hostilities back in 1918 after 4 absolutely gruesome, grinding years of massive loss. So there was a lot of rejoicing back here at home. Didn't seem to be quite the same with the troops overseas. So when they knocked off on the 11th hour of the 11th day, 11th month in 1918, there was sort of just kind of an exhaustion, I think, about the troops, and they were pretty low-key with their response.
8-month-old Madison Russell, with a bright red poppy in her hairband, was taken to the Cenotaph by her parents. Her mother, Samantha, only missed Anzac Day this year, as she'd just given birth to Madison.
The reason that we came today was because my mother served in the army for 21 years, so it's been a very big part of my life. I didn't go to childcare, the army was my childcare, and then before that I've had grandfathers and grandmothers and all types of people in my family. My father as well have all served, so it's been very big for me, so I want to pass that down to my daughter Madison.
As is customary, flags were lowered as the last post was played, before Reveille saw them raised again. In Dunedin, the South today.
And following on from that story, annual Armistice Day commemorations were also held in many centres around the South.
Armistice Day was marked across Otago and Southland this morning. In Tapanui, about 70 people attended the commemorations held at the West Otago RSA. It was a similar scene in Invercargill, where the ceremony was well attended under overcast skies, with soldiers, past and present, standing shoulder to shoulder with civilians. In Wanaka, about a dozen people attended a ceremony at the War Memorial, where 3 minutes of silence was observed, an ode was read and the last post played. In Arrowtown, about 60 people took part in this year's ceremony. After a minute's silence, people were invited to put their poppies in a World War I army helmet. Across the regions, the South today.
A year after it closed, Oamaru's flagship heritage building has finally reopened. Punters decked out in Victorian-era attire gathered at the Criterion Hotel yesterday for its first day of trading under new lessees Herbert and Maurice Martin.
We are really excited to return this wonderful building, to the community. That's what it means.
Marcy Martin couldn't contain her happiness as the doors to Oamaru's historic Criterion Hotel reopened yesterday. Martin and her husband Herbert are the new lessees of the 153-year-old establishment, which closed last year. She says the relaunch is a culmination of consideration and sensitive action to return the building back to the community.
Being part of the historic precinct is important to us. A lot of our friends are involved here, but it actually just captures all of our interests, hospitality and heritage in one package. So we're absolutely delighted to serve the people of Oamaru and beyond.
Sitting in the heart of the town's historic precinct, the historic hotel is often referred to as the area's flagship building. The couple in the Oamaru Whitestone Civic Trust, which owns the building, spent hours working to return the bar, restaurant and 6 bedrooms to their Victorian roots.
I think both Herbert and I have been actively involved for, goodness me, a very long time, and we just love this place, and it made us feel very sad indeed to see the doors shut for such a long time.
Martin says the hotel encapsulates both their love of hospitality and heritage. And with the help of North Otago businesses, the couple have created a traditional style menu.
We have stuck very much to a traditional English-style menu, which for most people will simply mean comfort food. And these days, perhaps the comfort food that we're offering isn't so much what people do at home any longer.
Oamaru Whitestone Civic Trust Chairman Graham Clark says it has been a tough few years for the hotel, so the reopening was a momentous occasion. In Oamaru, the South today.
A new mountain bike trail has opened near Queenstown, providing a vertical descent of more than 1 kilometre at Coronet Peak. Organisers say they hope it will become part of a bucket list for local and eventually overseas tourists.
A crowd of two-wheel enthusiasts turned up for Saturday's opening of the latest extension to the mountain bike track that descends Queenstown's Coronet Peak via a trail called Rude Rock.
Rude Rock is one of those iconic tracks that people sort of come from all around the world to ride, and you get to the end of it, you're like, oh, imagine if it went all the way to the valley floor. And it's always sort of been a dream, and now we've been able to make it happen. So I think now we've kind of got 1,200 metres of vertical descending from the top of Coronet to the valley floor, which should be pretty amazing.
Financial backer Rod Drury says the closing of New Zealand's borders gave a strong push for the building of this final leg of the downhill descent, which cost about $40,000.
Some of the best trail builders in the world, a lot of them are stuck in New Zealand as well. So when you see the quality of what they built here, this is an iconic track that really is a must-do for all New Zealand mountain bikers and hopefully all overseas mountain bikers as well.
Drury is hoping Queenstown's mountain bike trails will end up on the bucket list for New Zealand tourists.
Like, I really believe that mountain biking is just one of those things that almost everybody can do, and it's something that we actually travel to do, and these world-class tracks do create destination tourism. So it's been a great collaboration, and this is the first of hopefully a whole lot of new trails that we can build.
And this is not the last of new mountain bike trails being built in the region, with a 50-kilometre track from Coronet Peak through the bottom of Skipper's Canyon and then onto Macetown, currently under construction. In Queenstown, the South today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, we have a peek at a new apartment with a commanding view of Dunedin, and competitive tree climbers scale impressive heights in Queenstown, so catch this and more after the break. Welcome back. A new rooftop apartment has appeared on top of one of the buildings overlooking Dunedin's Queen's Gardens. The new addition is set to become the home of local couple Ted and Ita Daniels.
Heritage building enthusiasts Ted and Ita Daniels have almost completed their stylish rooftop living space on top of Dunedin's historic Stanton building. The apartment's distinctive roof shape was inspired by a project their daughter did for her interior design course at Polytech.
She came up with a playful take on the sawtooth roofs that are seen around Dunedin, and that was really the start of it. We weren't really thinking about building at that time, but here we are.
Overlooking the Queen's Gardens, the project has taken more than 5 years, but Ted Daniels believes the resultant aesthetic has been worth it.
So at the end, if you persevere with it, you will end up with something you can be happy with.
Yeah.
So and hopefully other people can enjoy seeing it. It's like creating a piece of artwork. It could be like a painting or a sculpture.
Built in 1907, the tall two-storey building used to be the Bank of New Zealand for many years, until it fell into disrepair about 20 years ago.
In, I think, 1999, I think the BNZ moved out and the building stood empty for more than 10 years. So, and the pigeons took over the building. Yeah, and water was slowly getting right through the building. So we probably just got it in time before it was ready for the demolition.
With many modern touches and polished concrete floors, they've created a home with arguably the best views of Dunedin's skyline and harbour.
It's awesome. I really have no words for it yet, and it's also reality still sinking in, because every time we spent our weekends here, it's like, this is not ours, we're just on holiday somewhere. So yeah, it still takes a bit of getting used to.
The couple are planning to properly move into their new apartment by Christmas. In Dunedin, the South Today.
This year's best male and female tree climbers have been found in Queenstown. The two champions rose to the top of 30 or so entrants and may be destined for greater heights at the World Finals next year.
Queenstown Gardens played host to the National Tree Climbing Championship in the weekend, with arborists travelling from across the country to the resort. The best of the first round ended up in the final Masters competition, which involved having to set up their own rope system and do a number of tasks, all in the time limit of half an hour.
So you need to better assess the tree from the ground, you need to throw a line in high into the canopy, install a rope, go up the rope, ascend into the tree, make yourself safe at all times, and then do the workstations as well and get all your gear out within the allocated time limit. Here they've got 30 minutes in total.
Day one had started off with about 24 men and half a dozen women competing, with the final winner of the women's section on day two being Steph Dreifhout, who says she got hooked into arboriculture while working at a tree nursery.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed it and sort of formed a passion for horticulture. And then, while I was there, I saw a video of someone climbing a tree being an arborist, and I just had this light bulb moment, and I thought that's what I've got to do. So I went and studied at Wintec.
The event is intended not just as a competition, but also as an experience that arborists can learn from.
The International Society of Arboriculture is kind of the governing body that the competitions is held through. They're very proactive in education, and they want people to use these practices in the workplace, so we try and implement what we do in the workplace into here. So this is an industry-based competition.
The winners of the New Zealand competition are set to compete at an international event in Copenhagen next year. In Queenstown, the South Today.
Primary care nurses walked off the job in GP clinics and medical practices around the region as part of a nationwide strike. Nurses from the New Zealand Nurses Organisation stopped work for 24 hours in protest at their pay parity claim, with higher paid DHB nurses not having made any progress.
Drizzle at Dunedin's Queen's Gardens didn't stop these primary healthcare nurses from joining a nationwide strike yesterday. These nurses, who work in the community for GPs, or in Andrea Buxton's case, a medical centre, are objecting to being paid up to 10% less than their colleagues working in district health board hospitals.
We are worth more. We are worth the same amount as what our colleagues in the DHB are worth. We do the same work, we work hard, we work for the people, and it's really important that we are recognised for this, for the hard work and the stress that we actually, the responsibility that we actually have behind us.
It's not the first time this year they've been on strike, with a feeling that both the government and DHBs are fobbing them off.
The DHBs and the government have not responded at all, so kia ora!
Newly elected MP for Tairi, Ingrid Leary, suggests one of the reasons there is a difference in pay between hospital and non-hospital nurses is because it's a feminine-dominated workforce, and she says her government is looking into it.
A lot of the times that we get these pay disparities or these issues within sectors, it's around the feminised sectors, and that's a concern. It's something that Labour has been very actively looking at, so we've had a really good collective agreement last year or this year with the NZEI, the early childhood teachers. Now it's time to look more broadly across the feminised sectors, and nursing is the next one.
Meanwhile, a notice has been served to employers of another one-day strike near the end of this month. In Dunedin, the South Today.
About 70 people attended the opening of Dunedin International Airport's terminal expansion and new departure lounge. The official opening of the second stage of the airport's expansion was supposed to be held on March 19th, but was delayed due to COVID-19.
When celebrating major achievements, the basics can sometimes garner the strongest reaction, especially when it's positive customer feedback.
She said, I have been around the world twice, and I think your toilets are the best airport toilets that I've ever seen anywhere in the world.
Stakeholders, staff and Dunedin City Council representatives gathered at Dunedin Airport to celebrate the official opening of the new departure lounge. Dunedin Airport Chief Executive Richard Roberts says given the year the travel and tourism industries have had, it's important to chalk up the occasion.
It was built for 1.1 million passengers. We're probably going to be about half that this year, so that causes a few problems, but let's celebrate it, let's have some good times, it's been a pretty tough year.
The new facilities were due to be opened in March this year, but were grounded along with the aviation industry due to the global spread of COVID-19. Richard Roberts says around 15 years ago, the facilities at the time weren't ready for the projected number of international passengers, which he believes will return when the world gets on top of the pandemic.
And I just don't know how the guys did this. I mean, it was literally a hole in the middle of the terminal that nobody knew was there. And we opened the doors and there it was. It was great, yeah. So it was due to passenger numbers at the time, which they'll come back.
The terminal celebrates the region and Dunedin with street art images, particularly in the toilets. Airport Identity Lynn Joseph was given the task of uncovering the commemorative plaque, with Roberts saying she was the obvious choice.
Lynn is part of the fabric of this place. Everybody knows Lynn. She's everybody's best friend and mother. She's certainly been a replacement for my mother. And I think we're going to have a little debate on the choice.
The first stage of the airport's expansion was revealed in August last year, when 2 advanced body scanners were added to its security screening service. In Dunedin, the South Today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, a jobs expo proves very popular in Dunedin. And young Lego fans could be building a future in the construction industry. So see you after the break. Thanks for staying with us. A multi-agency careers expo has been hailed as a success as hundreds of people flocked to the event. The Ministry of Social Development coordinated the event and says many employers had a variety of roles on offer.
Plenty of Dunedin folk looking for work or just thinking about making a career change turned up at the Otago pop-up job shop at the Glenroy Auditorium on Thursday afternoon.
And we had over 100 people already here at 2 o'clock and we've had over a couple of hundred through since then, which is awesome. And we're only an hour in.
Dunedin City Councillor and Deputy Chair of Economic Development Andrew Wiley says it's a challenge for employers to look for new workers in the current uncertain environment.
Employers are struggling at times. There is a lot of uncertainty around hiring people, being able to retain them. The job subsidy have been really positive in that environment. What does it get a hold in the next 6 months? What's going to happen in the next year? To make that commitment to take someone full time and promise them a job for a year or more is quite difficult in these times.
While there were over 40 organisations pitching opportunities at the event, Labour advisor for Ministry of Social Development Mel Warhurst says a lot of jobs are actually found through meeting employers and networking.
So 70% of jobs aren't advertised. So the hidden job market is trying to get those jobs without going to Seek, without going to Trade Me, by having conversations with people.
King's High School pupil Daniel King says a lot of jobs seem to require qualifications beyond what school offers, but at least he's found work for the summer holidays.
Most of the jobs there require further qualifications, but I think the cherry picking is, what I'm looking for.
In Dunedin, the South Today.
Gardening apprentices from across the South Island converged on the Dunedin Botanic Gardens for a teaching exchange day. The visiting group joined local apprentices for a guided tour with Botanic Garden Collections curator Dylan Norfield.
A guided tour of a well-known path. Dunedin Botanic Garden Geographic and Arboretum Collections curator Dylan Norfield leads apprentices and staff from public gardens in Queenstown, Christchurch and Oamaru around his well-tended patch.
And it was just very fortuitous that Queenstown apprentices actually asked to come on the same day. So we put the invitation out to also Invercargill and Gore. So we had a group of them all here, just a chance for them all to get together and learn from each other and see what each other does.
He says yesterday's first exchange training event is a success, so they're looking at continuing the exchange program in future, switching the venue to different gardens as the participants are learning well from each other.
It's a good opportunity for them all to get together, learn different things, see how everyone does things in other areas, and horticulture is just such a huge topic.
Queenstown Lakes garden supervisor Pip Schelling was among the touring party and says the mutual exchange of ideas has been beneficial to all.
It's hugely impressive here, what they've got going, how they have structured the gardens there. So going back to Queenstown, we'll kind of look at what we've got going on and how we can improve that, maybe with some special little nicks and acts that we've taken away from here.
After gaining qualifications in horticulture, Schelling was working at Mount Cook in tourism until COVID-19 decimated the industry, forcing her to return to her first love.
I had an opportunity to focus on my career again and managed to land in a superb role with the council.
Dylan Norfield says yesterday has been a great learning experience and may be the beginning of more exchanges in the future. In Dunedin, the South Today.
COVID-19 has caused the cancellation of many events across the globe. In Dunedin, the annual Polyfest at the Edgar Centre was a local casualty of the pandemic. However, one Dunedin suburb has decided to stage its own event and is now challenging others to do likewise.
Toru wha. Following the cancellation of this year's Polyfest in Dunedin, Brockville's kindergarten, primary school and kohanga reo have teamed up to hold their own Polyfest, celebrating cultures from the Pacific region.
So I think this is history in the making, and that we hope that we can do this every year from now on. Yeah. It brings our communities together, which is absolutely beautiful.
The hall at Brockville School was bursting with proud whānau members cheering their tamariki on. Brockville Kindi's head kaiko Julie Baird says both the primary school and kohanga reo were only too happy to take part.
Our children shine every year in that, and we have children that are leaders and our rangatira, and so we thought we didn't want those children to miss out this year, so we gave all the education services in the Brockville area a ring and voila, Brockville Polyfest.
Organisers estimate around 400 people came through the hall for the event over the day.
Is bringing all of our community together. We're so close to each other, our kohanga, our kindi and our school, and it's nice for us to be able to do something together and share with our community.
Brockville Principal Tania McDonald says hosting a Polyfest embraces the school's values.
Te reo and tikana Māori is a big part of our curriculum at Brockville School, and also our Pacifica culture is a big part of everything that we do. So for us it's about all the work that's been going on behind the scenes and being able to bring it together in a community event, which is really special.
The organisers are laying down a wedo or challenge to schools and kindies in other suburbs to host their own Polyfests, possibly in a lead-up to Dunedin's Polyfest 2021. In Dunedin, the South Today.
The annual Brick Show has been held in Invercargill, with crowds assembling to see around 30 Lego creations on display. Exhibits were made by people of all ages, including a local 5-year-old girl.
About 30 Lego displays were shown to the public at the Brick Show at ILT Stadium Southland over the weekend. The wide range of constructions included this exhibit by 5-year-old Lilly Sargent.
This is a selection of some of Lily's favourite sets that we have at home. As you can see, we have a lot of mini dolls. Lily loves the Lego Friends especially. She likes to change their hair and their clothes and all the wee accessories they come with, so definitely that's her favourite thing.
Lily's father says that constructing with building blocks can be beneficial to a child's mental development.
Yeah, so when I was growing up, Lego and Technic was something that I did a lot of in my spare time, and I certainly think it helps young people form a creative brain and sort of help with their logical thinking, so it's great that I can share that with my kids.
And event organiser Gavin Evans agrees that Lego allows the building of mind-expanding structures.
There's nothing that limits it apart from your own imagination. There's pretty much builds of anything you can imagine out there. Somebody's either done it or will be thinking about doing it.
A gold coin entry to the event served as a fundraiser for a charity for sick children in the local region. In Invercargill, the South Today.
And that wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news from the Southern region, head to odt.co.nz and follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Ka kite anō.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.